All right, New Orleans Pelicans are firing head coach Willie Green after a 2-10 start to the season. So look out, NBA. Willie Green's fired. I guess I guess that's good. Is Willie Green a good NBA coach? I don't know, but you can't be the New Orleans Pelicans coach and be a good coach at the same time. It's like an oxymoron. It's like saying that ice is hot. You can't say, "Hey, the New Orleans Pelicans coach is good." You can be a head coach, you can be the Pelicans coach, but you can't be both at the same time. Have I ever seen a good coach on the Pelicans? I think Monty Williams was the coach before. Anyway, Pelicans being terrible is not so much Willie Green's fault. It's more just the entire organization's fault. They're just bad organization, top to bottom. I remember when Chris Paul was there with Tyson Chandler. That was probably like 2007 now, at least back around that time. That was the last time I remember looking at the Pelicans. They were the Hornets at that time. But that's the last time I've looked at the New Orleans team and thought, hey, that team's actually they could actually maybe win a round in the playoffs. But again, that was fucking almost 20 years ago now. But they do fire Willie Green. Again, it's not his fault they're bad. The main reason they're bad is Zion Williamson. I'll give him the bulk of the blame, and I'll give ownership and management even more of the blame than Zion because they're the ones really at blame. But New Orleans had a disappointing start. They had an NBA record, three 30-point losses in the first 6 games. So, needless to say, that's not good. I don't know if New Orleans' plan is to tank for this season. I don't think that is their plan because you have Zion. You can hate on Zion. We'll get into his weight clauses and things in a second here because all that shit's just hilarious. Honestly, you have to have that in your contract. But you have Zion, who's a superstar player. We don't have to like him, but he is a superstar player. Jeremiah Fears looks really promising. They drafted Derek Queen. He looks really good. They have Trey Murphy the third. They have Herb Jones. So I can see ownership or management looking at this roster and thinking, hey, this is actually a decent roster because I do think it's a decent roster. I think it's a pretty talented roster they have. I like Jeremiah Fears. I like Derek Queen even more than Jeremiah Fears. So they're probably looking to build around Derek Queen. That would be the way that I'd be leaning at this point is just try to blow everything up and trade Zion, trade Trey Murphy, trade Herb Jones because every single team in the NBA wants Trey Murphy the third. Every single team in the NBA wants Herb Jones. I'm sure you could find someone that would want to trade for Zion Williamson, but I think that's the best way to go. If I'm an outsider looking in at the New Orleans Pelican, just blow it all up and then try to start building around definitely Derek Queen. I think Jeremiah Fears is going to be a good guard. I don't know if he's quite talented enough to build around, but he does look promising, at this point in his young career. Um, but yeah, moving on though, this is why I wouldn't be sure if they're trying to tank because they don't even own their first round draft pick for this season. So if they tank it up this season, then I think it would be the Hawks that would end up with it. Yeah, so the Hawks have the most favorable of the Bucks and the Pelicans pick. So say the Pelicans pick is higher than the Bucks, the Hawks are going to trade for that pick and get it. And then the Pelicans have a swap option with Milwaukee. So let's say Milwaukee's pick is better than the Pelicans pick, but it's not as good as the Hawks pick, then the Pelicans can make that swap with the Bucks to get that kind of in the middle, in between pick between the Pelicans, Hawks, and the Bucks, if that all makes sense. But basically, the Pelicans tanking it up wouldn't really help them this season because let's say they tank their ass off and they get the number one pick. The Hawks are just going to use that trade and get the number one pick for themselves. So, the tanking option doesn't make so much sense, at least for where they are with their draft picks. They could possibly, now it wouldn't even make sense. They would just need the Bucks, yeah, the Bucks to have a terrible season, which they're not so far. But if the Bucks had a horrible season, got a high first round pick, and the Pelicans could use that swap for this 2026 draft to get the Milwaukee Bucks pick if the Milwaukee Bucks got a higher pick. But basically, them tanking the season would only get Atlanta a higher pick. It wouldn't so much help out the Pelicans themselves. Going on to it, here's Zion's contract moving forward. I think I'll make that clear. I think that ownership and management are the most to blame. Ownership and management have been terrible for the Hornets, Pelicans for as long as I can remember. I've never looked at that franchise and said, "Hey, that's a well-run NBA franchise." Not to hate on the Pelicans and their fans, but it just is what it is. So Zion, he's making 40 million, basically 39 million this year. It goes up to 42 million next year, and it goes up to 44 million in 27-28 season. But the thing with Zion's contract, I'm sure you've all heard about it with his weight clauses and things, but when you actually look at it, it's fucking hilarious, to be honest. Zion, he's not committed or dedicated to winning. If you were committed or dedicated to winning or committed to your team, you would not have weight clauses like this in your contract. Even Shaquille O'Neal didn't have weight clauses like this, so I just think it's funny. It's funny and sad at the same time, but basically, for the 25-26 season, you see right here, 20% of his salary becomes guaranteed. If he passes if passes all six, I think they missed a word, but yeah, if he passes all six of his weigh-in checkpoints, so 40% of his salary becomes guaranteed if he plays at least 41 games or more, and then an additional 20% becomes guaranteed if he plays 51 games or more, and then the remaining 20% is guaranteed if he plays 61 games or more. Playing 61 games in an NBA season is not something insane. It's something Zion should have been doing every single year of his career, to be honest, if he would have kept himself in shape. I understand players being injury prone. Maybe Zion does stay in great shape and he still doesn't play the 61 games. I can't say, but bottom line is if you came in and into the season in shape, you were in shape every single year of your career so far, and you were just injury prone, no one can get mad about that. They'll just say, hey, this guy is injury prone. Some players are more durable, some players are less durable than other players. Zion plays a violent style. Is violent an okay word? His game is just fucking explosive. He's 250, just fucking exploding and landing back on the ground. Big old guy, like, I get it. He may still have been injured, even if he stayed in shape, but he ballooned up to like fucking 300 pounds. I believe it was just last year. Y'all saw the picture. He looked like a big old fat boy. I'm just gonna call it what it is. So again, I blame ownership, management, and I blame Zion for Willie Green getting fired more than I would blame Willie Green himself. Again, going over Zion's weight clauses again, I think it's hilarious and sad, that you're a professional athlete and you have to have this in your contract. But yeah, he gets 40% of his salary if he plays 41 games or more. He gets 60% of his money right there, the additional 20%. If he plays 51 games or more, then he gets 80% of his salary if he plays 61 games or more. Again, asking a player to play 61 games is really not asking for a lot. I mean, I get if you're an older player, if you're injury prone, like a Joel Embiid, we can argue if Joel Embiid takes care of himself or if he takes his dieting and stuff like that seriously, because I don't think he does so much either. But the weight clauses are so concerning for Zion. If you haven't seen exactly how they're broken down, you kind of see it here with me. Weight must be less than 200, right there. Weight must be less than 295 pounds, body fat monitored. And that's not something crazy to say either. Like, it's just wild he has these clauses in his contract that are saying, hey, Zion, don't balloon up to 300 pounds and you'll get most of your salary. And then all these games played clauses that goes hand in hand with him keeping his weight down. So, if he stays under 295, he's gonna have an even better chance to play all his games in the season. But yeah, I give Zion a humongous amount of the blame for Willie Green being fired, and I give management and ownership even more blame than Zion. Um, but yeah, I think they should just blow it up. Trade Trey Murphy the third. Trade Herb Jones. There's not one team in the NBA that doesn't want those guys. And then trade Zion if you can. It would be hard to trade him. If I'm the Pelicans, I want to let him play. Hopefully he can play 60 games this season, or hopefully he can keep balling out up until the trade deadline. And if I can get a good package for him, I'm trying to trade Zion and build around Derek Queen for the most part, and then see how Jeremiah Fears develops, because Jeremiah Fears looks pretty decent as well. But yeah, I mean, Zion would be so hard to trade. He got back in shape. He was never in shape since his rookie year. He was in shape his rookie year, then he was just out of shape all those years after. These weight clauses come into his contract. He's not going to make all of his money if he isn't in shape. then look, it's a fucking Christmas miracle. Zion's all of a sudden in shape now because if he's not in shape, he's not going to get his money. And I'm not going to hate on guys, for being about their money, for not being a psycho about winning, being like a Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Michael Jordan type of attitude. And that's fine. If Zion wants to come into the NBA, just play basketball, have the best job in the world, and get paid ridiculous amounts of money for doing that and not take winning and not take his health completely seriously. I'm not mad at Zion for that. I'm really not mad at him. Like, that's all good. Make your money, play basketball for a living. It's a fucking awesome lifestyle to have. But if I am a New Orleans Pelicans fan and I'm looking at all these weight clauses, all this shit with Zion, I don't want him on my team. I want him to get traded. I want us to get some draft picks, maybe get some other young players to put next to Jeremiah and Derek Queen, and then, I want to keep it rolling. I'm not mad at Zion personally. I'm not a Pelicans fan. You want to play ball and make money for playing ball. That's all good, and I'm not mad at Zion. I'm not mad at him for not taking care of himself. But I'm a Spurs fan. If Zion played on the San Antonio Spurs, whatever team you're a fan of, I'd be like, we need to get this guy the fuck out of here. This guy only got in shape just to get paid. I got off track. It turned into a Zion Williamson rant, but Zion's a huge reason why Willie Green got fired, and then ownership and management are the real reasons that Willie Green got fired. Just a PR move to tell their fans, hey guys, we're trying to do some things. We fired the coach. We're trying to win, but in reality, I don't think they're really trying to win. Please like and subscribe. Trying to get to 7 million subscribers. Let me know what you think about the Willie Green firing. Let me know if you think it's more of a PR move than anything, because that's how I feel about it. And we'll see y'all next time. Peace.